Welcome to Daddies the Podcast. I'm Eric.
And I'm Greg.
And this week we have a guest. His name is Chris Busson, a.k.a. Captain Cook. Chris, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. And you nailed my last name very easily, I might say. So I've heard many weird letters snuck into that last name. So like, people always sneak a C into there somewhere. Like, you know. But
well, yeah, because you didn't seem super confident going when we were going over the last name, so that was solid.
Because usually people don't. They're just like, "Oh, hi, Captain." I'm like, "Hi." I'm like, so,
yeah, right on.
That's what I said when you first jumped on. Hey, Cap.
Yeah, it's like so, which is fine. So,
well, since we're talking about that, what spawned the nickname? What spawned Captain Cook? Let's just jump right into it.
My irrational love of pirates is what spawned it. If you must know, so I have a unhealthy obsession with pirates and pirate history, even though Captain Cook, if you really want to get technical, wasn't actually the actual guy in history. Was not a pirate. He was actually a piece of shit. But sorry.
Okay.
But,
right on. Yeah.
Actual pirates I love. Like I literally have Blackbeard's flag tattooed on me. Like I love pirates. So naturally,
I just saw a diagram of all the pirate flags, and I thought that they were all skull and crossbones. And
this was Blackbeard's flag. So, and I got that tattooed for a specific reason, because he didn't have the classic Jolly Roger skull and crossbones. And Blackbeard, in one sentence, without wasting more time in the intro, Blackbeard was one of the first big figures like that as a villain or a pirate to really create a brand, so you could say. He was only active for like 2 years, but he's a name that all of us know. And the reason is just because people saw the flag and they weren't like, oh no, pirates are coming. They were like, oh shit, that's Blackbeard. And so like he built a reputation in a very short amount of time and got to a point where he didn't even really have to fight ships. They kind of just like gave up. So I've always thought that was fascinating, even though he was a horrible human being. But yeah, so that's where, and my love of that started this whole pirate themed cooking kind of page, so.
Do you ever do any heavy vitamin C to combat the scurvy recipes?
Yeah.
Is it hardtack?
Just to stay true, right?
Yeah. You can catch me sucking on a lime 3 days a week, just like,
Well,
so I don't necessarily need it, but goddamn, it's fun, let me tell you.
Chris, I don't know if you're into like video games, but I've been seeing a lot. Like, there's a lot of pirate,
yes,
and pirate-esque video games out. I think there was one that just came. I mean, there's Sea of Thieves, and then there's another one that just came out not that long ago, and I think I saw another one is coming out.
Well, my favorite pirate video game of all time, I would say, would be Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Black Flag, yeah.
Black Flag was just
sure.
like my favorite, because I always loved Assassin's Creed. Like, I still have my Xbox 360, the 250 gig, so loaded onto the Xbox, I've got Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. And then I had gotten into a car accident. I was laid up at my house, and my now wife, girlfriend at the time, brought me over a few games to play, and she brought over the new Assassin's Creed, which I didn't even know it was coming out. She gave it to me, and it was Black Flag, and I was like, oh my! Yeah. I was like clutching my pearls. I was like, stop! I was like, my lord! And I was just in heaven, and I love the game. I still occasionally will plug in the 360 and play it. I love it.
Definitely the best pirate game, and I'd say probably the best Assassin's Creed game too. For that,
well, if it was so different, then I feel like 1, 2. I mean, 1 essentially you were just eavesdropping, picking a pocket, and then assassinating,
jumping in hay bales.
Yeah, right.
Assassin's Creed, the second one, they really like stepped up a lot.
Yep.
Which was great. I loved it because that was like the Italian kind of like Renaissance era one, right? If I'm mistaken. And that really, like, they stepped it up. But then I haven't played the Valhalla one. I really wanted to try the Valhalla one.
They're cool. Like it's not the same, like, I mean, it's the same universe or whatever, but the gameplay mechanics are different, and it's more like the enemies have certain levels that you then have to go and grind, a certain area to get to that level. They're good, but it's, I don't want to say repetitive, but it's one of those things where I feel like the older ones were really where Assassin's Creed shown. All right, well, to jump away from Assassin's Creed, no, and pirates. I mean, we could talk about video games all night,
sure.
So Captain, so it's Captain Cook's Food, right? Like, that's kind of
that's the actual company name, is Captain Cook's Food, yeah.
And so what all does that encompass for you?
Originally, it was just a food page, and then that turned into a hot sauce company. So I actually started in the food business by making hot sauce. And I had started an Indiegogo for it and stuff like that. And then I started working with other companies with the hot sauce. So I would be making custom hot sauces for other brands. I'd be collabing with other brands and doing the joint hot sauce and making spice blends for them, stuff like that. And then so that kind of then turned into one of these companies that I was working for, a local cafe over here, like, oh, do you want to start catering? I was like, of course, I've been cooking since I was 9. Like, let me start. And within a very short amount of time, I was doing a lot of catering, and that was 3, 4 years ago. And so now I've really turned more into social media content creation because I work with a lot of brands on social media, but also catering, like actual catering. So I do private events, I do weddings, I work for that other cafe, but I also do my own catering. And yeah, and I also do like product workshopping and stuff with companies. So yeah, it's been a weird evolution of me slowly integrating into the food business. So
yeah, right on.
Seems natural. Yeah.
Yeah. So to touch on the hot sauces though, so are you still actively involved with like making hot sauces? Is that still?
yes and no. I actually, because I live in New York, I know you guys are in Delaware, right? So I don't know what the laws are down there. In New York, they make it very difficult for a small business when it comes to acidified foods. So I have a license in New York as a 20C food processor, which means I can basically avoid botulism and killing people. And I had to take courses on how to do that and whatnot. But they get very specific when you're making what's considered an acidified food, which means the pH is past a certain level and you're using certain ingredients, like in my case, habanero peppers, where it's like technically dangerous. So you can't just like make it in your house and like ship it out. So um, they needed me to do it in a commercial kitchen. And for a while, I was doing it at a local place where I cater, and it was fine. And then my county actually outlawed that, where they wanted me to start renting a commercial kitchen, and there's like barely any around me. And it's legal for me to do what I was doing on a state level, but not in my county. And so I called New York State Food Safety, and I'm like, wouldn't the state outrank the county? And they were like, nope. I'm like, okay. I was like, all right, so I have to find a new commercial kitchen, but I am still very involved in the hot sauce community. I was a judge for the 2024 Boston Hot Sauce Festival this year, and I'm actually on August 17th. I'm going to be judging the Philadelphia Hot Sauce Festival as well, at Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company. So yeah.
And so Eric and I will be we will be in attendance. So we are super hype.
That's gonna be so awesome.
Oh yeah, we as soon as I saw you post, and I was like, oh, Philly, we have to go. And
Yeah, that sounds
Neshaminy
great.
Creek, like we're both fans.
Love Neshaminy Creek.
Yeah. So and super close to us, so we will totally be there.
The hot sauce festivals, you should check them out. They are always in really cool places. The Boston one was at Harpoon Brewery, which was amazing. Because we had it like in the parking lot outside, and then we went upstairs and they served food upstairs, and it was really cool. But yeah, Philly's gonna be in Neshaminy, so that's gonna.
I don't think I've ever even like realized that there were like, like hot sauce.
They're pretty new. The only one that's been around for like a long time is the New York City Hot Sauce Expo. And so the New York City one, the first one that I went to was 2016. And this was when Hot Ones was like brand new. It had been in like its first kind of season, maybe. And I actually met Sean Evans there, because he was just like walking around and he wasn't like getting swamped or anything, but I knew him on the show because I went to film school, and a friend of mine who I had graduated with sent me a message one day, and we were talking. I'm like, oh, how was school? And she was like, it was great. And I was like, what are you working? Where are you working nowadays? And she's like, oh, I'm an editor on this show on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. She sent me the link, and it was Hot Ones. So I'm like, yeah, I know this show. I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
I've heard of that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I met Sean Evans at the 2016 one. And I almost had a heart attack at that one too. So that was fun.
From hot sauce or otherwise?
No, it was from what's known as a pepper extract. The guy that makes the hottest sauce on Hot Ones, who also breeds the Carolina Reapers and now Pepper X, his name is Smokin' Ed Curry. He will probably always hold the Guinness World Record of the hottest sauce. And I didn't know who he was at the time. I just saw some toothless redneck at a booth that said Pucker Butt Pepper Company. And he was like, that's the name of the company.
Gotta own it, right?
Yeah. And he's like, you want to try an extract? And I was just like, oh, sure, that's fine. And so he gave me a little eyedropper of a few drops of this shit and gave me a spoon, and I ate it. And instantly I started going like that. And it was like from back in the day when I used to do drugs, like my neck started hurting, and I was just like, and I'm like, what the fuck is? I'm like, what is going on right now? And I look at him, he's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, what's the Scoville level on this? Now, if you're not familiar with the Scoville level, jalapenos go at about 2,500 on the Scoville scale. Habaneros are 250,000. Carolina Reapers are like 2 million. This was 7 million Scoville.
And super concentrated.
It's an extract. Yeah, it was just an extract. It was just pure pepper extract. And I was outside for the next 20 minutes, hyperventilating, snot coming out. I was with my old boss. He was just throwing fruit juice on my face. And he was just laughing his ass off. I'm out there just like dying.
Fighting for your life.
Yeah, I went back inside, and Ed is behind the booth. He's just like, "You feel great?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I feel."
This is amazing.
Fuck you, guy. Don't do that again to me.
Yeah, right.
Like Jesus Christ. So, and I actually almost went blind at the Boston Hot Sauce Festival this year too. So,
you didn't rub your eyes, did you?
So they were doing a spicy pizza eating contest, and they were dousing the pizza with powderized Carolina Reaper, and I was filming it in front of the table, and then a nice gust of wind took hold and blew it right into my face. And so there are video clips of me somewhere like in front of the crowd, and then just going "fuck" and just like screaming and like running away, like
agonizing pain.
Yeah,
I went up to my friend Kyle's booth where he was recording a podcast, and I was just like, oh God, and he was just like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Fuck, man, I can't see anything." I was just like, it's crazy. So
you got pepper sprayed, man. I think that's
kind
of like what that was.
Probably fucking worse, honestly.
If I stay on this trajectory, theoretically, someone should just shove a Carolina Reaper up my ass at Philly. That's basically.
You're so close.
I'm so close to.
That's literally the next thing that's going to happen to you.
Yeah,
there will be hot. There will be hot sauce made there then.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's coming.
Handmade. Yeah. Hand and body curated hot sauce right here in Philly.
Made hot sauce.
Which is also a very fun part of hot sauce, which I'm sure you guys love, is the weird gimmicky names that come along with hot sauce, like concentrated devil's dick, or something like that. Like I think the best one I ever got was I was in Colorado. And I brought one home for my best friend, and it was called Ass Reaper. I was just, I'm like, that's the best.
Oh yeah, that's usually how I buy my beer. I really like any off the wall names,
the name and the artwork. That's the fucking the marketing, man.
There's a brewery in Delaware, Miss Pillion Brewing Company, and they have. I really like their Not Today Satan, but then they have my favorite one that I can order in a bar. Is I order a reach around. I love ordering a reach around. It's fantastic. And people don't even shame me for it. Now, I did it at Chuck E. Cheese's once and they kicked me out.
Now you're on a list somewhere.
I've been getting shamed for those for years. So that is quite a relief to hear.
Right. And I feel like too, with a lot of hot sauces, I mean, at what point does the heat kind of overtake the flavor, right?
That's what everyone had. Not a bugaboo about, but it was weird. When we were judging the Boston Festival, we chose sauces based on flavor, not heat. I love hot sauce. I love spice. My wife too, she eats just as much hot sauce as me, and we love hot sauce in this house, but I like stuff that has flavor. I'm also a chef. I like things that actually taste good. So some of the sauces that won trophies at Boston were not hot sauces. One of them was just a green verde sauce, but it was just the perfect quintessential green verde sauce. And I think people think that the whole hot sauce community and the whole world and everything about that is just about blowing people's asses away with spice. And it's not about that. You need something like my hot sauce is a mango coffee habanero hot sauce, right? And so it's a weird, interesting combination of savory and sweet. And it's got just the right amount of heat where the first 15 seconds you kind of want to die a little bit, but then after that it cools down and all of a sudden you get this beautiful sensation throughout your whole mouth. I really hope you take that clip and apply it to something else. But
sure, yeah. I already marked it down.
Find something to edit that onto.
I just tagged this moment.
Yeah. No, but it's really about flavor. I mean, I also make a shattered habanero candy glass. So it's just sugar, water, and peppers. And it came about because I was rewatching Breaking Bad one night, and I'm like, I want to do something like that. So I literally pour this beautiful caramel onto a sheet pan. I let it harden, and then I shatter it with the back of my knife, and it comes out looking like amber shards of glass. And it's just habaneros, peppers, and water. And when you eat it, you're like, oh my God, this is sweet. And then after 10 seconds, they look at me and they're like, wow, go fuck yourself. And then after another 20 seconds, you're just kind of like, because I use two different kinds of peppers, you get different sensations at different points on the tongue. So like habaneros are all in the front of the tongue here, right? But I use a little bit of Carolina Reaper too, which does the whole back of the throat, and just a little bit of Reaper. So what ends up happening is I've tried to hit as many parts of the tongue at once so that you get a nice total kind of feeling, not just drooling from the front of your tongue, like when you have something too hot, you know? So
just burn the whole mouth. That's great. I enjoy hot sauce. I am not. Greg can stand more than me, but I can take only so much. Like I think not my max. I'll try anything. Sriracha is amazing. I think that's my like.
Sriracha's great.
This is max heat, and I love the flavor. But like any hotter than that, and I start to go, I've got to mix this with something.
Well, to be fair, sriracha, I'm not one of those people. I don't like shitting on people who can't handle a lot of heat. I think that's mean. I think that hot sauce has more to do with finding the right amount of heat for everybody, right? I've had people try my hot sauce that typically do not like hot sauce, but for some reason it works because it's got the right balance of sweet and spicy. And I'm a big advocate of, why would you try to like shun somebody for not like, and it's like, oh wow, what a little bitch. Like, no, dude, like make a sauce that like everybody could enjoy. Like a good table sauce to me that's got like a little bit of a kick that some people would consider hot, but other people just consider a good sauce. To me, that's like perfect. Like I love that so much. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I was doing the my wife got me a subscription to like the Hot Sauce of the Month Club.
Nice.
And some of the shit that was coming through, man, was fantastic. I have been traveling a lot, and we stop at Buc-ee's whenever we go down south, and
Nice.
they have their hot sauces, and they're fun. But that box subscription was actually really cool because it was introducing me to things that I typically wouldn't try. And I also didn't feel super guilty if I didn't love something because the bottles weren't ginormous. It was all kind of included. So I feel like, yeah, if the flavor's there, I'm here for it. And I also really want to try some of that mango hot sauce that you do.
I'm gonna make another batch and bring it with me to Philly.
Okay.
Not to sell, but just to give to certain people. So if I can remember to make enough, absolutely, you guys will be able to bring.
Appreciate that.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Especially if you're coming from Delaware. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we're there.
Yeah.
We have it on our so we have a podcast calendar that we use to keep track of guests and our schedule,
Right.
and that is on there. So
It's great. You guys should try. You should, if you want, I can talk to Kyle. He's one of the organizers of the event. He's a friend of mine, and they have a podcasting like booth because he's going to be recording his show there, Full Slice Podcast. And that's how Boston was set up too. Boston, there was a podcasting corner where different shows recorded throughout the whole festival. So
yeah, that'd be great.
If you guys want to do an actual sit-down episode where you don't have to like walk around and stand in a corner with like, you know, mics
the
and
little
stuff.
mics,
like,
yeah, that'd be great.
Just like, you know, so,
yeah, that would be absolutely great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, definitely.
But
so to move away from hot sauce,
Yes.
and I just wanted to talk about this because I think it's kind of interesting how we came across and how we crossed paths in our social media journey. So we both have a mutual friend in Daniel Rinaldi.
Yes.
I think that's kind of how I did. We interviewed him about a month ago, and I was an idiot and didn't realize you could. I thought you could just tag people. I didn't realize you could like collaborate with people.
Yeah.
And so then I went back through and I started inviting everyone that we interviewed to do the collabs. And I think that's when we met. After that collab went through. So is Dan someone that you've known for a while, or?
I've never met him in person.
Okay.
He was also a friend of a mutual friend. He's a mutual friend of a friend as well. But yeah, we've talked a lot. We've shared a lot of music. And so I was a musician. I am a musician, but I was in bands for years. And so he and I started off by talking about like men's mental health. And then I had done an episode, I think, of his show actually, when he had like a men's mental health show, and I think I talked to them on that back in 2022 or something like that. And then yeah, but he and I always like share each other's music and stuff like that. So that's how we ended up getting to know each other. I have very multiple people in multiple areas of life that I end up crossing, but you know, in different genres of life, I guess you should say. But yeah, Dan is amazing. I love him.
That's how I feel like this journey for us has been cool, just because we've been able to meet and converse and have these conversations with individuals who I never thought that we would be talking to. You know what I mean? When we started, it was just kind of Eric and I shooting the shit with one another, and then once I kind of understood like what social media was and reaching out, and I think as I saw you like a post or something of ours, and then that's kind of when I was like, well, we want to talk to you, and so that's kind
Your
of
mistake,
how.
but yeah, that's fine. Regretting that now.
No. Yeah. But it was, and yeah, you mentioned Dan, so but so you're big on social media. Social media is hard, we
it is. It's interesting.
It is.
I think we've had this discussion with people before that almost no matter what you do, it could be food, it could be music, it could be art. It doesn't matter if you want people to see your stuff or be a part of you or a follower. You've got to just be heavy on social media. It's such a big part of
engagement.
Any small
Engagement has just become all of it basically, and like even the fact that the algorithm on Instagram pushes your posts more if you engage with the people that comment is like insane. Like to me, it was always like, because it always moves, and people are always adjusting their content based on the algorithm. And at first, it was like keep your videos under 15 seconds, and now with TikTok, it's like, well, you can't even make money if your videos aren't over a minute. And now on Instagram, they'll push your posts if people comment and you respond to the comments. So it's like, it's always changing, and engagement though in general has become the main thing. And I don't know, I just find that kind of fascinating, but also extremely annoying and frustrating, because I have no problem like shooting content, but also like, I don't film every single meal that I make. I don't, I try to put something out like every day, every other day if I can. I don't always achieve that, especially if I'm like going through a lot on like in actual like life, like if I'm catering a lot, if I have a lot going on at work or like with my family. Like I have a young son who's almost 2, so like there's a lot that goes on where like if I'm just not into it, like there's going to be a few days where I just can't do it.
Well, I think that's what's so hard about it. I mean, because I don't want to speak for you, Chris, but I think it's the same thing. Like the three of us, we have jobs, like
Yes.
This isn't like our full-time job, but you still have to be like it. For me, like I'll text Eric and I'm like, all right, we haven't posted anything yet today. We need to post something to stay relevant and engage. And so do you, whenever someone comments, do you engage with everybody who interacts with your stuff?
No. I try to, but also like I just don't. And I like sometimes I always like a comment if I can, and I try to respond to people if I can, because people went through the effort of exposing themselves to the world and saying something on your post, and it should, the minimum gratitude should just be like, responding back with like a heart or like thank you or like, oh my God, great. And so that's one part of social media where I'm trying to be a little bit better, where if somebody does comment, I will absolutely respond. If somebody comments something negative, I absolutely respond with that. In fact, not too long ago, I made a reel based on a comment from some, I don't know, old fucking bag that was just, she was just mean. She was just basically like telling me how she would do something different. What did she say? Oh, I catered an event, and it was the people were trying to get the vibe of like a backyard barbecue. So I made it look like a backyard barbecue, and then I guess it wasn't like pretty enough for her. So she was like, it's like, well, this looks, what did she say? She goes, this looks like a picnic in Washington Heights in the city. Presentation matters. I was like, So I made a reel posting her comment on the reel saying, I'm going to skip past this borderline racist comment and agree with you. You know what? Presentation does matter. So here you go. And then I went like that. And then it was just a huge collage of all of the amazing catering, decadent, beautiful dress dishes that I've done, because I do that a lot, but I also make things that are just messy but taste incredible. So yeah, I do engage with people. Sometimes not always in the way that they want, but yeah.
Sure. Well, I bet that probably gets good.
That got more interaction and comments than any reel I've posted in the past year. People love that.
Absolutely, that's part of like social media is like people kind of want to see things that make them furious, upset, that make them feel something more than just like, hey, how about this? Oh, that's nice. like, but hey, that makes me really mad. I'm gonna fucking comment on that and say how mad that makes me. Like, that's and
that got so much engagement from people literally just saying like, who the fuck says something like that on somebody's post, or like, it's like presentation doesn't matter if the food tastes good, go fuck yourself. Just like so many comments of people supporting me, which was nice.
First of all, that's what backyard barbecue is just like basic. Give me that red and white, like checkered tablecloth. Yep. Give me some paper plates or those little baskets with the paper in them.
It was literally just stuff in sternos. It was like catering. I had aluminum trays set up in sternos, and I had all my food and stuff, and I was just showing it. That was it. It wasn't like anything. I wasn't like trying to show this like incredible, like, curated gourmet appetizer like I do make sometimes for events. This was like just a backyard barbecue where people are supposed to just grab the tongs and just make a mess on the plate. Like, and they loved it. They loved the food. So whatever.
I do like that. I've been seeing a lot more people taking those negative comments. I notice it a lot too with like bands, and someone will say like, your shit sounds generic as fuck. And they'll take it and just put it and like, people love that shit, man.
Yeah.
Social media is such
one person where if you love that, you need to check out his page, because he does that almost weekly, and he doesn't care. He's got it's got to be close to 200,000 followers by now. He was a judge with me at the Boston Hot Sauce Festival. His name is Cody Tries Stuff on Instagram. He's fucking hilarious. I love him, but people will comment horrible comments all the time, and he just posted to his story and screenshots it and shows himself responding back saying, hey, thanks, go fuck yourself. Just like
right on.
Like,
I think that's the right mindset to have about people that will comment shit on you.
You have to. I mean, because you know how fucking negative people are, and some people do it just to be just a piece of shit.
But I think that's the whole point of that, is that people post things because they're trying to, put some kind of positivity out in the world, right? Most of the time. I don't want to encapsulate everybody and say that, but most of the time, especially when it comes to food type content, right? And so when you comment something negative, like, what is that really doing? You know what I mean? Like, if anything, I think the best advice I ever got from that was somebody who was on my podcast who I became friendly with. She's a chef out in California. She wrote a book called Let's Get It Boys. Let's Go Boys, about her journey to become a chef and so forth. And Hannah Lay is her name. And she said she loves when people comment negative stuff because it just boosts her engagement. So she just responds back to every single one. And it works. It's true.
It's like feeding the trolls.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
They'll keep coming back.
I've noticed it a lot on TikTok too. I feel like there's a lot of negativity on TikTok, and that could just be like, I might just be overthinking it or whatever. But
no, you're right. Different social media platforms have different moods.
It's a different group of individuals. I feel like that.
You've got TikTok dicks. You've got Instagram foodies. You've got Tumblr nerds.
I feel like Reddit is also, if you start going into subreddits and posting shit, you'll get downvoted just for posting anything. Yeah.
You're lost. Yeah.
It's done.
If you're venturing into subreddit, there's no hope. You're lost.
What did somebody say? Reddit can be a weird place.
Yeah.
We were talking about the choosing beggars subreddit.
Yeah. And that is 100% true. But I feel like that was really hard for me, at least in the beginning, when you would get that negativity and it'd be like, oh. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to use that as a way to, one, not give a fuck about what people say. Like, we're making stuff that we want to make for us, and that was always what we set out to do. So if you don't like it, that's fine. Like, you are absolutely, then don't watch us. But it fucked me up for the first couple of months when people would post shit that wasn't like, good job, guys. It's a real humbling experience, at least. Now, so when you post on social media, like, how do you choose what dishes you're posting, or like how do you, is it just like, this looks cool, I want to post this, or do you have like an idea?
I'd say it's a combination of both. Also, a lot of them, believe it or not, are things that I just make for like my wife at home, or like, that she and I have on our weekly menu. Those are the videos that I post most of the time. I do also do my catering videos, because I did a video recently where I was like showing what it's like to cater a 17-hour day with me, because I had 2 catering gigs in the same day. I started at like 7 a.m. I didn't come home till like almost midnight. Like, it was a very long day. And so it was a morning gig. I had a little break or whatever. And so I showed the different steps throughout the day with timestamps, and people seemed to really like that. So I'd say as far as the food, I do get specific ideas, like, and if it's not for a brand, and it's just like me posting a recipe or something like that, it's usually I try to incorporate something that I think people can, maybe pull something away from. Like I've had a lot of people ask for the recipes or like, oh, I never thought about doing that, etc., whatever. Um, and ramen has been a big part of
Hmm.
that as far as me taking a bowl of like, Maruchan, just like instant kind of ramen noodles and elevating it like a like a crazy person basically. Um, like I worked with Bubby's Pickles. I don't know if you know Bubby's Pickles at all, but they're a great pickle company. Them and this kimchi company had a collab, and they needed me to make a video. And they were like, "You need to make a dish," and we want it to be a little weird. And I'm like, "All right, well, I'll make a pickle ramen." And they were like, "What?" I'm like, "I'll
Hmm.
make a pickled ramen." So I made a spicy pickle, like Kewpie mayo base, and poured in the broth. And then on the top, I had pickled veggies, kimchi, and then I just took one of their giant dill pickles and just stuck it throughout the middle with a jammy egg that was opened up.
Okay.
And then on top of the jammy egg was a sriracha hot sauce as well. So,
Fuck, that sounds
um,
So yeah,
amazing.
you're speaking our language now.
yeah,
Because
I
so
actually
that is
just
our shit.
I just had ramen for lunch. Best ramen spot in all of Delaware. Maybe, well, probably further even than Delaware. Ramen Kumamoto on Main Street in Delaware. They are our favorite place to go. I just went there today. God, it's the best. I love it. And you're right though. People are rabid. The people that love ramen really love ramen, and it's
yeah.
fascinating to see the presentation and see people make
It
it.
is, yeah. I mean, there's also a difference between like the kind of ramen that I make at home. I'm basically, I like showing people how you can just take a pack of instant ramen at home, shit in your pantry, and like an egg,
Hmm.
and with the same boiling water and the same pot, make something amazing at 11 p.m. at night, because that's most of the time what I do, right? But there's also a difference between that and like ramen, like actual tonkatsu, like real
Sure.
ramen, and that is a whole other treat. I mean,
Sure.
I actually, there was a spot that was in a local area around here that's not there anymore, and it
Hmm.
was called Rockin' Ramen, and it was a fusion ramen place that mixed together traditional ramen with Caribbean cuisine,
Mm.
and like straight up like old school like Jamaican like jerk style cuisine. And so there would be like chicken jerk ramen, and I would be like, "What?" And
Fuck.
it sounds super strange, but then you eat it and you're just like, it makes so much sense. The flavors just work together so
Yeah,
well.
everybody
And
loves a team up. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
it was so good. But yeah, and of course I'm not too far from the city. I was born in Manhattan, so in New York City there's too many good ramen spots. There's little tiny holes in the wall that, are just incredible. And there's places like Ivan Ramen, which that's it's just yeah, you have a plethora of choices in that place. So
I feel like
yeah,
that's what's tough about Delaware is like we have what, maybe four ramen spots that I
Probably
can
in
think
the
of,
whole state.
maybe in the whole state,
I think so,
and there might be more,
honestly.
and I'm sure there's more, but the food options are very slim here, so we always have to venture outside of our three counties in
Road
Delaware.
trip.
Yep,
yeah,
to
road
to
trip for
have
ramen.
food
Yeah.
that
Break our
you know.
borders and
That would be a
try
that'd be
something
a
new.
great podcast episode. Road trip for ramen.
It would be.
What
There's a
is the
good show
fascination?
on Tasty that they would do that. They would do three price points. I think it was on
Yeah.
Tasty. Was
Yep.
it
It's
was
like we
three price
try
points.
$20, $200, and $2,000 ramen, like or whatever. Yeah,
That well, I loved that show. I would watch it
yeah.
for every episode.
Well, what do you think the fascination is with ramen?
I
Like
think it's
what?
so far removed from our traditional upbringing in the U.S., I guess you could say, that I think that's why, like, as far as like, I don't want to speak for everybody in the world or people, but am not of Asian or Japanese descent at all. Ramen was not a part of like my upbringing in my household. I had Italian American parents, but my dad was pretty versatile with what he would cook, so we had a lot of like paella and like Spanish influenced dishes and like a lot of like barbecue dishes and stuff like that. Like it wasn't just straight like spaghetti all the time. Um, but as far as things that were that consistent, I think something like ramen for a lot of people who grew up in the States who are not who do not have heritage of countries where that's usually from the origin, I think it's not something that's so common. So as you kind of get older and you discover it, I feel like, if you had a friend who grew up eating that in their house, even if they live in Delaware, they'd be like, yeah, Dick, like this is incredible. This is just, it's part,
You're right.
um, so I think that's a big part of it. I think it's just something that because a lot of people feel like they rediscovered this new area of cuisine that they just didn't know as a kid, maybe.
I like that
And
take.
again, that's a very big speculation. I'm not
I
trying
like
to,
that. No,
I'm
I
No,
not
like
trying
that
that's
for
to,
sure.
that
And
sounds right.
it checks out. That is
Yeah.
definitely my life. The
Yeah.
best soup I had before ramen, and I was just saying that I don't even know if I would consider ramen to necessarily be soup. I know by definition it fits, but it's its own thing.
yeah, it's a whole other world. Anything that takes that long to make, if you make the proper broth, I think that leaves the soup area. Like
Right,
if you
right.
have to make like an 8 hour broth for tonkatsu, like then yeah, I think that leaves the I think
But
that
also
leaves the
too, like I feel like I could eat ramen every day, but like I don't want to eat soup. Like oh, here's a bowl of
Can I
broccoli and
also say something
cheese.
that might be controversial? Fuck pho. I don't like pho. I don't know if it's because I'm spoiled with ramen
Or is it
what. Like
lemongrass?
if
Is
it
that
can't,
the
it's
if it,
just
if,
it's
if it
also
can't,
very different. Yeah, it's I all right.
yeah,
So somebody who if you really love ramen
yeah,
and you're not a huge lover of every I don't want to say soup, let's say broth based food. Uh,
yes, yes,
I understand why you may have that because
yeah,
pho is very different. I mean, it comes from a different part of that continent, and it's a
hmm,
very different idea as far as like the base of the soup and when the ingredients go in and the kind of ingredients that you use, the types of noodles that are used, like everything is different. So that's not the most far-fetched thing ever. If you're just like, yeah, ramen is way better. Like I get that.
sure,
Like I'm not saying I love pho, it's great, but if I had to choose between them, like I'm choosing ramen all the time.
hmm,
I love
hmm.
ramen. It's
That's
just
fair.
it's
They're
incredible.
I've
different
never
things.
actually had it.
You've never
No,
had pho?
I have not.
You
Yeah.
should find a very good Vietnamese place
Yeah.
and
I feel like I
go
should
have it.
try it once, at
Yeah.
least give
Yeah.
it a shot.
Yeah.
definitely try it.
It's like the first time somebody has hot pot, you know?
Oh
Like
yeah.
if no one's ever had hot pot, it's an experience, you
I
know?
just did that
And
pretty
Eric just had
recently.
some hot
I
pot.
did
Yeah.
just do that within the last month or so for the very first time, and that was amazing. I loved it. That was it was
it's an
awesome.
experience, especially your first time, you know? It's like the first time
Yes.
somebody goes to like a Korean barbecue type place and
Oh
you're
yeah.
just like you're like I can play with the fire. That's going okay.
Yeah.
And you're just
Right.
like,
Right.
you're like I usually get yelled at for this. Is that okay? And they're just like, yeah, you're like, okay, it's good, you know.
I felt
So
bad. We kind of started to smoke the place out, and they were like, you put the really saucy stuff on, didn't you?" And we were like, "Yeah,
They know.
yeah. I mean, how else was I
and you
supposed to cook
everyone's
it?"
acting like professional. It's like I'm looking for grill marks, dude. Like, just like, you know.
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Chris, you mentioned a podcast a little
Yes.
while back. So is that something I know you're not actively doing the podcast right now, but you did you talk about bringing it back? Is that
I'd like
in the
to,
works?
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, most people ask me why I stopped recording. The simple answer is my son now lives in my space where I used to record. You know, when you live in an apartment, that's you know you have to sacrifice space. But
Hmm.
also, it was I started kind of focusing more on like social media. Recording was just taking a very long time. I'm the kind of show where I would record for like hours, right? And like hours, and depending on who I had on there. And then that would be cut down to like 90 minutes maybe. But like that required a lot of like editing. And I also had some situations where I recorded with this local lifestyle influencer that I grew up with, and I was talking shit while we recorded about this local business. And then in the interim between me editing and releasing the episode, I got offered a collab and started working with that company.
Mm,
So then while I was editing, I had to cut out the
cut
whole
all that
part
out.
where I was just like, fuck these people. I don't care. I'm going to name them, you know.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So I was like, I need to start being more careful. But
Sure.
yeah, the podcast is called Spicy Memories. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, you know, Google. It's on all those that are still up there. You know, it's like any other podcast, not any other podcast. It was like any other podcast that started in 2019 with one douche who thought that he could do it. You know, the first like 4 or 5 episodes are kind of like trash. And then, you know, started around episode 7, I started actually like using a better mic and like caring about my quality. And I came up with like an actual format for it. And then the guests that I had on were incredible. I've made great friends from people that were on my show. Um, Cast Iron Kyle, who is one of the partners and one of the organizers of the Philadelphia Hot Sauce Festival. I got him on my show. He was at the time, I had like nobody on Instagram as a follower, and he had like 25,000 at the time. And I just took a shot in the dark, and I was just like, he had been written up in Bon Appetit magazine as like this cast iron guru, and he actually sells and restores restores and sells cast iron pots and stuff. And so I brought him on the show, and I brought another guy, Phil, who used to be called Paired Pints on Instagram, and he really specialized in pairing certain beers with certain flavors and photographing it really well. And those two and I actually ended up meeting in New Jersey later that year and like doing a whole day of cooking and shooting together. And then Kyle's the one that I was in Boston with judging, and I'm going to be with him in Philly. So like the show, I would like to find a way to get back to it eventually, but I want to do it right if I do that. And so, also because I've just been so busy with life and catering and stuff, I've been trying to focus more on, not trying to do 900,000 things at once. Because
Dude, you had us at 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we get it.
I'm amazed that you can do anything, honestly.
That's why even that you'll notice that I'm not like screaming, and it's not because I've had a long day. That's why, because if he wakes up, I'm gonna be like, fuck, that's what, like,
No.
That's how we are. We have I have the doors shut, and I think my daughter is in bed. My poor wife is out there right now, kind of typically keeping her in, and luckily my son is sleeping, I think. But it's rough, man. Like, having kids really changes everything.
And it really does. Nobody. I feel like people should warn you more about that.
Yeah, right. Nobody ever says that having kids changes everything.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Podcasting is such a weird thing. I love it. I really do. But it's so, we started in January, and it was one of those things where we were always like, it's just going to be Eric and I talking, and that's pretty much going to be it. We're not going to do video. And then we did that for, I don't know, about 5 episodes, and we're like, wow, this is fucking garbage.
Chris, when you were going through your evolution, I was like, yup. Okay, yup.
And you know what?
Yup.
Our person, so we had maybe 200 followers, and I reached out to Dave Elkins of May, and he was like, yeah, I'll come on. And I was like, oh shit, really? And that for us was kind of like, oh cool, like people do actually want to talk. And then we were able to get Daniel on, and we were able to get William Hung and Cartoon Connect, and like now we're starting to meet, we met you, and so we're starting to meet people, and I think that's been the coolest experience.
It's definitely the people that you meet, I mean, I've been a voice actor on a lot of on a podcast, one specific podcast. There's a true crime podcast called Lullaby the Fear podcast, and the operator of that, Ashley Lana is her name. She originally we met because I went on her show that she had at the time with 2 other friends, and then she came on my show, and she was actually my most frequent guest. We have a whole episode where there's like a huge 40-minute chunk of us hashing out a marketing scheme for Vaseline that's targeted specifically for people that ate spicy food for your asshole. And so it's just like, it's like a 40-minute chunk of us just being like, no, we're going to call it Red Cap Fast. It's going to be great, man. Like, you don't even know.
It's a real niche conversation.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's like the episode. There's a Simpsons episode, I think, where Homer drinks. He coats his throat and mouth in wax, and then he goes through. It's probably a county fair or some spicy festival, and he eats it's a chili festival, and he eats all the spiciest chili
Just
and there's
down.
nothing. And then I believe he has a like an out of body experience. He starts hallucinating after it all hits his gut.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like that, but for your ass. It's like,
basically,
right.
Except on the way out.
Yeah, right.
But no, with podcasting, it's definitely about the people that you meet, and there's people that I still have never met in person, and I started a show with somebody that I never met in person. I had on this other podcaster and radio show host. Her name was Alyssa. She went by Pebs at the time, and she had come on my show. I went on her show. And then we were talking, and she and I started a podcast where there's only a few episodes because then I had my son and she was moving, and it was all over the place. But it's called 5 Ingredients. And it's because I was a chef and she and her husband are not. And they were trying to explore more meals. So they were like, we want you to make us recipes for dinners and meals that only have 5 ingredients. And I was like, okay. And then they would cook the recipe, and then we'd have a show where they talk about it, they try it, all that stuff. And like, I was making like 5 ingredient burgers and like stuff like that, where it was like literally just like 5 ingredients, So, it's really cool the people that you meet and the conversations you have, because I didn't limit myself to just people in the food world. I think that, as you mentioned earlier, the nice thing about doing this is that you have this rare opportunity to not have to be in the same room with somebody, which is a bonus. but also
right, yeah.
you have the opportunity to not be in the same room as somebody and still be able to have an amazing conversation about something and about a topic that you maybe wouldn't have ever before. And I think branching out into those other worlds has maybe been the best part for me. I mean, like I've loved all the chefs and all the food people that I've had on my show. It's been great. You know, my friend Hannah Lay, who wrote that book, like she's a chef out in California. Like she came on my show, which was great. And I've had a lot of people. I've had people that were like, you know, physical fitness trainers. I've had people that were just like musicians. Like, you know, the last episode that's published is with my friend Sam, who lives out in Beverly Hills. And he's a musician. He's been in very successful bands for years. And he also has this like incredible passion for food. But like a lot of what we talked about was like songwriting and like music and stuff. And, you know, I think being able to step out of your comfort zone is a little bit easier when you feel like the other person is up for it. And I feel like the kind of person that's okay with coming on a podcast is probably like that as already. You know, I mean, it's not like it'd be weird if you guys had me on and I was just like,
yeah. Well, thanks.
You know, just like, you know, like doing that.
Would,
you know,
it
so,
would be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I feel like that has been really nice. Is everyone who like we're not forcing you to come on, you know, so it's not like or someone is forcing you to come on. Like everyone wants to be here.
It's an
agreement. I should have gotten a prop of like a gun just coming like from the side. Like,
yeah, right. Like, damn it.
You're gonna talk.
yeah, right.
No, we're not forcing. I'm like, no, you guys aren't forcing.
Yeah, right.
We want more hot sauce.
Yeah. No, but I think for us too, it's just been a really cool experience, and so we've.
For sure. I feel like podcast is super like network friendly and very like neutral. Like, oh, you have a podcast. No, I don't think anyone ever takes that as like a negative term. Anything like where there's other things that can be like, oh, I hate some YouTubers. Like there's some YouTubers that I find very annoying, and I'm sure that there's annoying podcasters too. But you don't typically.
Oh, there's
really
definitely
get that
annoying
sense.
podcasters. Yeah, so you're talking to one right now. No, it's I think that regardless of the fact that podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff can be very oversaturated, which people love to act like that's a bad thing. It's not. Like just like that means that you're going into it with the intention that every single person who's starting a podcast is doing it for the sole purpose of just trying to have it blow up. And as nice as that may be, that's not really why people like you two and like me start conversations with people. I was never expecting my show to, you know, reach the top 10 charts on Spotify podcast. I don't give a fuck. That's always going to be both of Dave Chang's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, and Call Her Daddy, right? It's like always going to be those fucking shows, you know, and that's fine. Like, that's not why people start podcasts. You start podcasts because there's this need to find out more inside of you, I think. And whether that's about food or music or just mental health, anything, right? I think that it gives people an opportunity to do that. And if something good happens in the process, then, you know, that's just a wonderful byproduct. So,
yeah, I was having that conversation. I think it was with my mom or dad, and they were like, "Well, what's your thing? What's your sector?" And I was like,
"It was your mom. It was your mom. Me and her were talking about it. Actually,
were you talking to her? Did you see her that night?"
I did. I see her. I high fived her as she was on her way out of your house.
So we were trying to figure out, or well, she was like, "What's your like sector?" Because she was like, "Well, I can't think of any like dads to have on your show," and I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" She's like, "Well, your name is Daddies," and I didn't tell her the story because it kind of involved her, how we got her name, but
you can tell she hasn't listened to the podcast.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like we are just trying to speak with individuals that like and something that we're interested in and something that yes we want to learn about and that we think is also something that is relatable to people who are listening as well. And so I don't care like if you are an animator, musician, an actor, chef, whatever, comedian. Like we're not just picking specific, like I know some shows like they're just having certain people on, and that was never our goal or intention when we started. Originally it was just the two of us. So
remember when we first started? Yeah, we listened back. Well, we don't want to go back to listen to the early episodes. We were like, and now we're gonna do a candy or a snack review.
Yeah, we would sit there and we had no fucking video, and we would eat candies from different countries, and we would just be like,
that probably sounded so fucking great, just like
it was
crumbling
so,
on
oh God, I'm sure.
And we were like, oh, this candy is a Japanese lemon ball. And it was so fucked. It was so bad.
Well, probably a little cringy,
but
low
I think
quality.
The beautiful
Everyone
silence
goes
that
through that.
happened while both of you were eating it, and everyone listening is just like,
What the fuck? We did a whole episode on I really am into like artisan soap. And we did a whole episode talking about different soap companies, but no one could see them. So we're like, well, this soap is round and brown. This one is a rectangle. And it was fucking fringy. And that went on for probably 2 fucking months. Something's got to change, or
Yeah,
else
it was
this
all
isn't
about
gonna-
the soaps.
It was all about the soaps. Yeah, we were specifically only having soap people come on.
Soap makers.
We were only having soap makers, and it's cool. And like they were really cool.
And I kept
shout out
wanting to talk about Fight Club.
Okay,
sometimes,
so-
yeah.
Well, ironically enough, Squatch just put out their Fight Club soap for the
they really?
25th anniversary of Fight
it
Club.
really?
And
I love that movie.
they just put out a Fight Club soap and a SpongeBob soap because both had just hit their 25th anniversaries.
Fight Club and SpongeBob are the same age.
Yeah, isn't that
It feels
fucked?
wrong.
Right? Yeah.
Such a weird juxtaposition.
Yeah, but
it's
hey.
the crossover I didn't know that I wanted, but now
you
I
know
feel like
what?
I need to see.
I have the Fight Club soap. It's upstairs. It smells pretty fucking good.
Of course
the
you do.
SpongeBob one is on its way. But yeah, we got real into. We went down the soap rabbit hole for a while.
Chris,
but-
I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that you are a musician.
am.
What's your poison? You play an instrument?
I do. I play mostly guitar. My first instrument ever were piano, sax, guitar, bass. Recently, I learned the mandolin.
Okay.
And what else? Yeah, I mean, mainly piano and guitar for the most part, most frequently. I've got a couple guitars and my mandolin always hanging on the wall here. And when I lived, before I moved out years ago, I had a piano in my parents' house, so that was nice to play that. And yeah, it's mainly piano and guitar. And I was the lead singer of a band that was originally like a ska punk band that turned in like hardcore funk, early Chili Peppers kind of a little bit. But I had a voice when I would sing that was kind of like the dude from Steppenwolf a little bit. Like it was very loud and projected, but with a little bit of rasp, like I had been chain smoking all night because I was chain smoking all night. So
I'll do it.
yeah, but yeah, mainly guitar and piano. So
Now, have you noticed that having like I'm a guitarist as well, and ever since I had kids, like playing is now so much more difficult because it's like I can't crank my amp up, and so like I'm playing with headphones through like an interface, and it's just not the same.
No.
It doesn't feel the same.
It's
you know,
not.
have
I mean,
you
I
noticed
haven't
that?
plugged into my amp in a very long time. To be fair, I have a giant Fender, like 200-watt Fender Mustang, which like I used to play shows with that thing and keep it on like 3.5,
And it
would be fine. And so like having it in an apartment at our old apartment, it was on a wood floor in our office, and I would keep it on like 1, right? And then I'd be like, fuck this. And I'd put my headphones in and I'd play on like 8. But then it was these headphones actually, and I'd be an idiot and just like go like that or something, and they'd pull out of the amp, and the whole apartment would just be like, bah, 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 just like shake, you know. But yeah, it's I mainly play my acoustics now. I usually keep one. You're a guitarist, so I don't know if you are as well, but I keep one guitar usually in standard tuning, and then I have another guitar that I've been keeping in an open C5 tuning, which is kind of like an Irish open C tuning. It's starting from the low E string down. It's C, G, C, G, C, C. And
Interesting. Okay.
And I do it on this old, I have a 1963 Guild acoustic
Yeah.
that I use it for. And the bottom 2 strings, instead of using the 2 strings that are usually on there, I changed out the high E string and the B string, and I strung on a G and a B. So when I tune them to the same note on the bottom 2 strings, they give like a mandolin kind of sound because they're the same exact tone. And so it's pretty weird. It just came from me not having enough guitar strings in the house. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, that sounds great. And then my wife, actually, for my birthday, she got me a mandolin, which made me giddy like a little girl because I've wanted one forever. And she got me this all black, beautiful mandolin. And I was just like, I'm going to learn every fucking Noah Khan song that exists, just like, you know. And so, and I'm playing like that. I'm playing like Flogging Molly now. I'm just like, you know, but also like I chase my son around the apartment playing 1985 by Bowling for Soup on the mandolin. And he's just like, like he just loves it. Yeah. So
I'm finally at the point now where now that my kids are getting a little bit older, I just picked up a an orange combo, and I've always wanted
Nice.
one. I just got it,
I
and
love orange so
it's
much.
so good, and it
They're
was
so
I'm so
good.
happy with the purchase, and but it's nice because they'll come in and listen. But granted, like I couldn't turn it on right now,
No,
and
no.
then that would just, and I don't want to run headphones through it, so I spent a lot of time and money on Prime Day just kind of sourcing. I was getting like cheap pedals for it to like see what sounds good, and if it doesn't, I'm going to get rid of it. But yeah, there's just something about playing music through an amplifier, not with the headphones on. I went through a phase of doing the simulation. So I had the HX Stomp, I had the Headrush Prime, and dude, there's just people swear by the Helix, but I don't know, man. There's just something about feeling it behind you when you're playing.
Yeah, it's different.
It is
It's
different.
it's it's very different, and especially because you have to think about like the volume compared to the size. Like if you're playing out of an amp, it's that size because it's that amount of sound that it's built for to come out. When you have these things on and you're playing through an amp, all of that sound is all of a sudden being condensed. Even if you've got really good headphones, right? Even if you've got the Audio Technica beautiful headphones, like whatever, you know, all of that sound's being condensed into this little tiny area. So yeah, you'll hear everything, but it's not the same feeling as when you're feeling the vibration from it coming out. You know what I mean? And I always loved that. I mean, I miss playing shows. I was a crazy lead singer. Like I loved being on stage. I loved feeling the vibrations from all the sounds and hearing the bass drum and stuff behind me. Like it's just it puts you in a completely different mindset. But now also that I have a child, I also enjoy, peace and quiet. So
Well,
it's
right.
like,
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to pick your poison.
yeah,
I'll tell you, ironically enough, that's how I actually met Dan. Was fuck 10th grade, a band that I was in. We opened up for Bed Light for Blue Eyes, and
nice.
didn't know like. I was fucking 15, 16, so like I met him, but like then I
Yeah,
was like, oh wait, shit,
You
like
guys weren't hanging out.
we were not hanging out, but we crossed paths when I was much younger, so it was cool to talk about that. Music's a cool fucking thing. But to get away from music,
yes.
I just wanted to get your advice for someone looking to get into social media and content creation, even food blogging. Like, what would you tell them, or what would you tell yourself even, I don't know, 10 years ago?
Um, don't. No.
Stay
Yeah.
away.
No. I would say start with things that you like, right? I think a lot of people, especially once they're established, they kind of hop on trends. And so a lot of people who are starting out think they need to do that. And you see people making reels and doing things that are just, trending sounds on TikTok or like things they want to do, etc. Like you need to start by doing stuff that you like. Like I got more followers on Instagram simply just by posting whatever the hell I wanted, saying whatever I wanted, not censoring myself. The amount of times my page has been flagged from Instagram,
Hmm.
horrible. Mainly
Hmm.
from memes that I've posted. Um, which is insane, but that's a whole other discussion. Um, uh, sorry, I'm just thinking about the one that just recently got me flagged. Um, so I didn't think it was that bad. It was the Burger King, like
Yeah.
him, the logo, but the G in King was replaced with a K, and he had a ball gag in his mouth. So I just said Burger Kink, and he just had a ball gag, and I
Wait,
was
that's
like,
fucking funny. Yeah,
it's
right.
hilarious.
I
And
love
they were
that.
like, your
Went
post
to
has been
Instagram
removed, and
jail
your
for
account
that?
is like, yeah.
Ah, boo.
Mm.
But yeah, I would say to people who are starting actually to create content, it's really based off of what you like because people now, because engagement is such a big part of social media, people tend to respond to what they can tell is something that really excites you or that you love because then all of a sudden there's this like relatability, right? When you see something on Instagram or something that's very, I don't want to say like dehumanized, but like you see these like recipes all the time where it's like make this summer salad with me, right? And it's like they make this like weird salad and they just eat it at the end like no. When you see somebody make something and explain why they really love it, other people can connect to that, right? And that's really what catches on. So I think the best advice is start one with things that you know you would love, things that you want to see. Like look at recipes and be like, yeah, but you know what I would love to see in that recipe? Like X. And then you put in that missing, factor, right? And then after that, you really, try to, if you're working with places, try to work with companies that you actually enjoy, companies that you like. Last summer, I was lucky enough to do collabs with Corona and with Fresca, and like, like just these companies that I never thought I would do anything with. Marucan vinegar, my favorite rice vinegar, has sent me multiple PR like giant packages and stuff. I've made multiple reels for them. It's, you never know who you're going to be able to work with. So start out by just doing stuff that you like, and if you're just yourself for the most part and people connect with that, the options really open up a lot. But if you hate what you're doing and you're just doing it to get more views, there's a very good chance that that won't happen because people can tell. It's for a place where it's very easy. How do I put this eloquently without sounding like a douche? For a place where it's extremely easy to be very inauthentic. I don't know, whichever one. A place where it's very easy to be not authentic. You are very, very easily detected if you're not. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm,
where it's so easy for people to put on a different kind of persona on social media. I am not the same on my social media that I am in real life. There is obviously a layer of truth. I mean, I am who I am on social media, but I don't show social media when I'm, a miserable prick, which does happen like everyone else in life. It's just, things, it's just, but if you are showing a side of yourself that you want people to see and that you're okay with people seeing and it's genuine, it's, people will connect with that. So I think that would be a huge piece of advice too, is like, you don't have to hop on the trends right away. You don't have to do XYZ. You can just be you. And there's an old saying, like, there's somebody for everybody. And that doesn't always apply to romantic situations. Like, I mean, there's somebody for everybody. There's somebody who would easily and just love your personality. And it's okay to be you. Like, it really is. And as cliche and stupid as that sounds, it's true. I think people need to allow a little more of themselves out on their social media. And, you may butt heads with some people. You may not always be on the same path that you thought you would, whatever. But like, it is very easily detectable if you're being phony, basically.
Mm-hmm. So we consistently hear is authenticity is everything. Yeah. And I want to echo your point too. You will not make everybody happy. No. Straight up.
No.
It's impossible.
Anytime I post any kind of knife skills or a tutorial on how to cut something, or even just me using a knife, I just wait for like the line cook and chef comments, like, wrong, right? Just like
that's not how we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like a fucked up weird kitchen Donald Trump, like, wrong, sad, like, just like, just like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, man, sorry, like, I don't know.
It's a day. It's a day. Yeah. And also, I still cut it up, so chill.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and also, like, most people, like, unless you're really cutting something, I'm going to go on this little tangent because it pisses me off. If you're really cutting something and you need to be exact, right? I don't work in a fucking Michelin star restaurant, all right? If I'm cutting Michelin star potatoes, I get it. I have to be exact. If I'm doing it at home for a breakfast hash, leave me the fuck alone, right? If you're doing it in a restaurant or you're catering, most of the time, if you're cutting something, it's usually so that everything cooks evenly, right? So at the end of the day, people aren't going to look at that anyway. Like, but if you're doing it at home and I post a video, like, shut the fuck up. Like, seriously, like, leave me alone. Like,
it's going to taste just fine.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah. Like, my God. But yeah, sorry.
No, that's a worthy rant. I agree.
Much appreciate it.
People could be really wound up. There's this page that I follow. It's a stupid, actually the page might be called Stupid Drivers of Delaware. And so you'd imagine the thing that you'd post, this is my rant. Let me go. You'd imagine that you would post people like driving terribly, parking in like shitty park jobs, whatever. You would post those things and then expect for people to go, oh yeah, what a shithead. People almost always just comment and say, why are you whining about it? Why are you trying to expose these people? Maybe you don't know. Maybe they're driving fast down the highway because their wife is in labor.
Always, you don't know their life story.
This is literally a fucking page to complain about bad goddamn drivers. I fucking, and then I think it's almost,
you need to the comment as your rebuttal to that, especially. It's like, maybe their wife is in labor. It's like, well, it looks like someone needs to reworkshop their birth plan. Like, right. That would be the best comment.
Yes. The fuck, man.
Yeah. I think that the page itself has taken on its own irony. Like, if you post something complaining about somebody, people are going to just reach out to get you. So then it's breeding only the people that are okay. Like, they've just got tough skin. So then they just post things real tongue in cheek. Like, maybe not even a big deal. Whatever. That's the stupid page. But I think it's not just that page that does it.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, Chris, thank you, man. August 17th.
Saturday, August 17th, and Sunday, August 18th is the Philadelphia Hot Sauce Festival. I will only be there on the 17th, but I will be there all day on the 17th, and I'm going to be giving out the trophies that day with the other judges, whomever they are, because they haven't been announced yet, so I don't know if I'm allowed to announce them.
That's right.
But I will definitely be one of the judges. I'm allowed to tell people that.
Great.
The tickets also, for anyone listening that wants to go, the tickets are like $10. Like, they're pretty cheap per day. Fuck, did you hear that thunder?
Yeah, was that fuck, man?
That was thunder. Holy shit.
Wow.
Damn.
Yikes. Well, this might be the last time anyone sees me.
Yeah, right. It's been real.
I'm glad that none of us lost power.
Yeah, it was thundering here a little while ago.
It was. I heard it over here too.
It's that Burger King meme finally coming back.
Yeah, right. Instagram's coming for you.
They're going to be smoked.
Yes.
And so for anyone listening to this, we will have a link to the tickets in the bio. They're what, $10?
$10 a day.
Yeah,
it's
super
so
cheap.
if you want to go for the whole weekend, it's $20.
Okay, cool. Eric and I will also be there. So we will see you then, but we will be there as well.
I can't wait to see how disappointed you are to meet me in person. It's going to be
no, we're pumped.
It's going to be so great.
We saw you're coming to Philly. We're coming to meet you. But thank you.
Dude, thank you guys. This has been amazing. So
yeah,
I haven't been on a show as a guest in over almost a year.
Wow.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. Almost 2 years, actually. So yeah, you guys are the first show I've been on since late 2022.
Yeah.
Well, you're always welcome, man. So
for sure. Yeah,
you are always
come
welcome
on again.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Anytime you guys want, you let me know.
Cool.
So.
All right. Well, I'm Greg.
And I'm Eric.
And we are the Daddies. Thank you for listening.